Hey warriors, you ever notice how the people you help the most are always the ones who hurt you the deepest? They take your kindness, drain your energy, and then disappear the moment you finally need something. And the worst part is, you blame yourself. You think you should have been more patient, more understanding, more forgiving. But here's the truth, no one teaches you. Helping the wrong person doesn't create loyalty, it creates entitlement. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he warned that certain people become more dangerous after you save them because they start believing your sacrifice is their right. Before we go deeper into the 7 types of people you must never help, hit subscribe, because what you're about to learn will permanently change the way you protect your time, your energy, and your sanity. You were raised to believe that helping people is always noble, that generosity is always rewarded, that compassion is always reciprocated. But reality is darker than that. Some people see your kindness as a weakness. Some people see your empathy as an open door. Some people see your support as an opportunity to take more than they ever intend to give. And when you finally reach your limit, when you finally say no, they treat you like the villain. Not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped feeding their advantage. Let me tell you something that will feel uncomfortable but liberating. Not everyone deserves your help. Not everyone appreciates it. Not everyone respects it. And some, the most dangerous ones, will punish you for giving it. This script isn't about becoming cold for no reason. It's about becoming strategic. It's about understanding human nature the way Machiavelli saw it, clear-eyed, realistic, and without illusions. You're about to learn the 7 types of people he would tell you to avoid: the ones who drain you, betray you, guilt you, or collapse on you the moment life asks them for integrity. By the time you finish this journey, you'll stop helping people who sabotage your life and start protecting the power you've been giving away for years. The first type of person Machiavelli would tell you never to help is the bottomless pit, the one who always needs saving but never changes. You've met them, the friend with endless crises, the family member who refuses to take responsibility, the co-worker who turns every mistake into your emergency. At first, you think you're being supportive, but over time, you realize something darker. They don't want solutions. They want a caretaker. And the more you help them, the more helpless they become. Machiavelli warned that helping those who cannot help themselves breeds dependency, not loyalty. Because the moment you stop rescuing them, they won't grow, they'll resent you. Not for failing them, but for forcing them to face themselves. The second type you must never help is the silent rival, the person who smiles in your face but competes behind your back. This is the co-worker who asks for advice only to use your ideas as their own. The friend who congratulates you publicly but downplays you in private. The person who acts close only to study you, measure you, and copy you. Helping a silent rival is handing ammunition to someone who already sees you as a threat. Machiavelli would call this a strategic mistake. Never empower someone who secretly wishes to surpass you. You may think you're being generous, but to them, you're providing insight into your mind, your strengths, your vulnerabilities. And once a rival has that information, you've already lost ground. The third type is even more dangerous, the victim king. This is the person who weaponizes pain, the one who always has a sad story ready, the one who uses guilt like currency. You help them once, and suddenly you're responsible for their happiness, their comfort, their emotional storms. And if you don't comply, they accuse you of abandoning them. They twist the narrative until helping them becomes an obligation, not a choice. Machiavelli warned that those who use guilt as leverage make the most treacherous allies because they never feel grateful, only owed. And here's the harsh truth. Some people don't want healing, they want attention. Some people don't want solutions, they want control. And helping them only strengthens their ability to drain you. The fourth type of person Machiavelli would tell you never to help is the crisis maker, the one who creates chaos and then expects you to clean it up. These are the people who make reckless decisions and call you at the end of the disaster. They gamble with their lives, their responsibilities, their relationships, because they know someone like you will always show up to fix it. Helping a crisis maker isn't compassion, it's participation in their self-destruction. And Machiavelli understood this pattern well. He who causes injury will never forget it. He who receives kindness will never remember it. The crisis maker will blame you when things go wrong and forget you the moment things go right. Then comes the fifth type, the entitled taker. This person believes your help is not a favor, but their right. They never say thank you. They never reciprocate. They never acknowledge your effort. To them, your time is disposable, your energy is endless, and your support is automatic. The moment you stop giving, they accuse you of being selfish because they've built an identity around consuming your generosity. Helping an entitled taker is like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. No matter how much you give, it will never be enough. The sixth type is far more subtle, the secret saboteur. This is the person who pretends to care about your growth, but subtly undermines you at every turn. They warn you not to take risks for your own good. They discourage your dreams under the disguise of realism. They plant doubt in your mind, then offer support when you shrink yourself to the size that makes them comfortable. Helping a secret saboteur strengthens the very person who is quietly rooting for your failure. The seventh type, the most dangerous of all, is the smiling parasite. They're charming, likable, warm at first. They study your kindness, mirror your empathy, gain your trust. And once you let them in, they drain you emotionally, financially, mentally, not aggressively, but subtly. Every request feels small, every favor seems harmless, but over time you realize they've taken more than you ever intended to give. Machiavelli knew these personalities well. Beware those who flatter, they are planning to use you. Once you recognize these 7 types, something inside you shifts. You stop seeing your kindness as a virtue and start seeing it as a resource that must be protected, rationed, and directed with intention. Because the truth Machiavelli understood and society hides is this: your help is power, and power, when placed in the wrong hands, becomes a weapon against you. Think about your past. Think about how many times you offered help thinking it would create loyalty, only to be met with betrayal. Think about the people who walked away unharmed while you carried the weight of their emotions, their mistakes, their chaos. That's not compassion, that's conditioning. You were trained to believe that good people always help, even when it destroys them. But here's the lesson every awakened mind eventually learns. Your empathy must have boundaries, or it becomes self-destruction. There will be people who call you cold once you stop overextending yourself. There will be people who call you selfish once you stop playing savior. There will be people who call you distant once you stop being their emotional crutch. Let them talk. Their complaints are confessions that they benefited from a version of you that abandoned itself. And this is where the real Machiavellian transformation begins. You stop seeing generosity as an obligation and start seeing it as a strategic choice. A choice reserved for people who respect your time, your energy, your boundaries, and your growth. Helping the wrong person makes you weaker. Helping the right person makes you stronger. Machiavelli understood this balance deeply when he wrote, "A wise man helps only those who increase his strength." So, ask yourself, does this person grow with me or drain me? Do they stand beside me or lean on me? Do they rise when I help them or sink deeper and drag me with them? Every answer reveals a truth about who deserves access to you. And as you continue this journey, you'll start to feel something you haven't felt in years: control. Control over your energy, control over your decisions, control over who gets to benefit from your presence. This is the beginning of reclaiming your power. Now that you understand the 7 types, let me show you something even deeper, something most people never realize until it's too late. When you help the wrong person, you don't just lose energy, you lose identity. You start shaping your decisions around their needs. You start bending your boundaries to avoid their disappointment. You start carrying emotions that were never yours to carry. Little by little, you stop being yourself and become the version of you that serves them best. That's why helping the wrong people is so dangerous, not because they take from you, but because they change you. They mold you into someone who tolerates what you once rejected, someone who justifies what once felt unacceptable, someone who explains away red flags because you're afraid of being harsh. But the worst, transformation happens internally. You start believing your worth lies in your usefulness. And once you believe that, you open the door to every manipulator waiting to slip in. This is why Machiavelli warned against offering generosity blindly. He understood that people don't respect what they get too easily. Give without boundaries, and you become invisible. Give without discernment, and you become replaceable. Give without strategy, and you become prey. But here's where your awakening sharpens. You begin looking at your past, not with shame, but with clarity. You see the pattern, how every betrayal had a warning sign, how every draining relationship had a moment where you felt uneasy but ignored it. Not because you were weak, but because you were trained to feel guilty for protecting yourself. That guilt, it's the chain that kept you tied to people who never deserved your strength. And the moment you break that chain, everything shifts. You start saying no without apologizing. You start giving less without feeling obligated. You start recognizing which people rise when you lift them, and which ones only take until there's nothing left to take. This is how self-respect is built, not through aggression, but through discernment, through choosing who gets access to you and who no longer qualifies. You're not becoming cold, you're becoming wise. As your wisdom sharpens, you start noticing patterns you were blind to before. Patterns in how people speak to you, patterns in how they react when you pull back, patterns in how quickly their kindness disappears the moment you stop being convenient. That's the gift of awakening. It gives you new eyes. Where you once saw misunderstandings, you now see manipulation. Where you once saw bad timing, you now see entitlement. Where you once saw someone who needs help, you now see someone who expects it. And before we continue, if you're starting to pretend, feel something, click inside that shift, that clarity hit like, not for me, but to mark the moment you finally stopped apologizing for protecting yourself. Because now you understand, some people don't want your help, they want your surrender. They want your attention, your time, your emotional labor, without giving anything in return. And helping them is not compassion, it's compliance. But here's the part most people never see until too late. When you stop helping the wrong people, your life doesn't get harder, it gets quieter. The chaos you thought was normal suddenly vanishes. The constant drain suddenly evaporates. The emotional heaviness you carried for years finally dissolves. And in that quiet, you meet someone you haven't seen in a long time, yourself. You begin rediscovering the parts of you that got buried under everyone else's needs. Your ambition, your clarity, your intuition, your boundaries, your peace. Suddenly, you have the energy to think about your own life again, your goals, your growth, your future. You stop reacting to emergencies that aren't yours. You stop getting pulled into dramas that never end. You stop feeling responsible for fixing people who aren't interested in fixing themselves. And here's a Machiavellian truth most people never admit. Your energy is your currency. Protect it, and you become powerful. Spend it on the wrong people, and you become depleted. You've spent too long ignoring the cost of your kindness. Now you're learning to invest it wisely in people who grow with you, not drain you, in people who elevate you, not sabotage you, in people who respect you, not use you. This isn't selfishness, it's strategy. And once you start investing your energy wisely, you notice another shift. The wrong people begin to fall away on their own, not because you confront them, not because you argue, but because your new boundaries expose their old intentions. People who once clung to you suddenly distance themselves because they can no longer feed on the version of you that sacrificed everything. They weren't attached to you, they were attached to your compliance. This is where the psychological landscape becomes clearer. You begin to realize that every person in your life fits into one of two categories: those who grow when you rise, and those who collapse when they lose control over you. And the latter group makes themselves known very quickly. A person with good intentions respects your boundaries. A person with hidden motives resents them. That resentment reveals everything. Someone who valued you will adapt to the new you. Someone who used you will abandon you the moment you stop being accessible on demand. And as painful as that sounds, Machiavelli would tell you it's necessary. Men forget the kindness they received the moment it no longer benefits them. Losing these people isn't rejection, it's purification. You may feel guilt at first. The old conditioning whispers that you're being harsh. But guilt is just the echo of your past programming, the voice that kept you small, agreeable, and emotionally overextended. Now you know the truth. If someone benefits from your suffering, helping them is self-betrayal. This stage of your awakening is powerful because you're finally reclaiming something you didn't realize you lost: your emotional independence. No more second-guessing your boundaries. No more explaining your decisions to people who never listened. No more giving grace to people who weaponize it. This is when your energy becomes selective, your presence becomes rare, your time becomes valuable. And the right people, the ones who respect you, support you, and grow alongside you, will feel that shift and meet you at your level. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming unavailable to the wrong people, and unmistakably magnetic to the right ones. As the wrong people fall away, something else rises in their place, and clarity. Clarity about who you were, who you are becoming, and who you can no longer afford to be. You begin to see your past with new eyes, almost like watching an old film of someone you used to know. Back then, you mistook exhaustion for generosity. You mistook overthinking for caring. You mistook emotional labor for loyalty. Now you recognize those patterns for what they truly were: survival mechanisms built in the presence of the wrong people. Machiavelli believed that true power begins with self-knowledge, not the soft, poetic version, but the brutally honest kind. And as you reflect, you realize you weren't weak, you were conditioned. Conditioned to carry burdens that weren't yours, conditioned to prioritize feelings that weren't real, conditioned to be available to people who were never available to you. When you stop helping the wrong people, you reclaim that conditioning and rewrite it. Suddenly, you're not the fixer anymore, not the rescuer, not the reliable one. You're the one who walks away from chaos instead of managing it. You're the one who says no without trembling. You're the one who chooses yourself before choosing people who never chose you. This isn't selfishness, it's identity reconstruction. And here's the twist most people don't expect. The moment you reclaim your identity, new people start noticing you, the right people. People who respect your time because they respect their own. People who don't ask for your energy, they match it. People who don't drain you, they sharpen you. You start attracting individuals who are aligned with your new standards, your new boundaries, your new clarity. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're no longer accessible to those who once diluted your power. This is how the world responds to your evolution. What is low frequency falls away. What is high frequency rises toward you. And you realize the truth Machiavelli knew long before psychology gave it language. Your life improves the moment you stop helping those who sabotage it. As your standards rise, something else becomes undeniable. The world reacts to you differently, not because you've changed your personality, but because you've changed your access. You've stopped giving your energy away like loose change, and people feel that shift instantly. Your silence becomes powerful, your boundaries become memorable, your presence becomes something people notice, not something they take for granted. This is when you start seeing another truth. Machiavelli understood deeply. Power isn't loud. Power is controlled access. The more selective you become, the more valuable you appear. The more valuable you appear, the more carefully people approach you. Suddenly, those who once dismissed you now watch their tone. Those who once demanded now request. Those who once expected now hesitate. You're no longer the person they can drain without consequence. You're not the automatic yes. You're not the emotional sponge. You're the one who evaluates, measures, and decides strategically. And that shift changes your entire social landscape. You'll notice that manipulative people stop coming to you, not because they've grown, but because you've become unprofitable to them. You no longer offer free emotional labor. You no longer rescue them from their own chaos. You no longer give them the comfort of your old self. To a manipulator, that makes you useless, and that is a compliment. Healthy people, however, respond differently. They feel safer around your boundaries. They trust your yes because they know it's real. They respect your time because they respect their own. They rise to match your self-respect instead of pulling you downward. This is where your awakening reaches a new level. You stop choosing people based on their needs and start choosing them based on their character. You stop helping out of guilt and start helping out of alignment. You stop saving people who break you and start investing in people who build you. And when you operate from this place, something incredible happens. Your life finally becomes yours again. You move with intention. You give with wisdom. You help with discernment. And every choice you make strengthens the person you're becoming. And once your life becomes yours again, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel a calm you didn't know you were missing. Not the fragile calm that shatters when someone else has a bad day, but a grounded calm that comes from knowing you are no longer responsible for managing anyone's chaos but your own. This is the peace that appears only after you stop helping the wrong people. This is the peace Machiavelli hinted at when he wrote that a wise person must guard his own fortune before guarding another's. Your mind becomes clearer, your decisions become cleaner, your days feel lighter, because your energy is finally going toward people, goals, and responsibilities that actually matter, not emotional fires that were never yours to extinguish. You begin to realize how much of your life was spent reacting to other people's irresponsibility, how many goals you abandoned, how many dreams you delayed, how many nights you lost to stress that didn't belong to you. And as painful as that truth is, it awakens something powerful inside you, the determination to never lose yourself like that again. You see now that your time is expensive, your mind is valuable, your peace is sacred, and anyone who cannot respect that has no place in the next chapter of your life. But here's the part that surprises most people. When you stop helping the wrong individuals, you also stop attracting them. Your energy no longer signals free emotional labor. Your presence no longer feels like a rescue station. Your boundaries no longer allow leeches to get comfortable. Instead, you attract people who are stable, responsible, reciprocal. People who don't drain you, they steady you. People who don't demand from you, they add to you. People who don't pull you backward, they walk beside you. And that, right there, is the beginning of a life built on mutual respect instead of silent resentment. Because the truth is simple. You were never meant to be everyone's healer. You were meant to be selective, strategic, and sovereign with your compassion. As you step into this new sovereignty, another truth reveals itself. The people you choose to help now determine the direction of your future, not emotionally, but strategically. Because helping the right person multiplies your strength, while helping the wrong person destroys it. Machiavelli understood this dynamic with ruthless clarity. He warned that alliances must be built on stability, not sentiment, on character, not chaos, on reciprocity, not need. And now you see why your past felt so heavy. You were aligning yourself with people who could not support the weight of their own lives, let alone yours. People who leaned on you because they had no intention of standing on their own. People who mistook your empathy for permission to remain broken. Helping them didn't elevate you, it anchored you. But now, something shifts. You begin recognizing the people who are worthy of your help. Not the loud ones, not the needy ones, not the guilt triggers or the emotional tacticians. The worthy ones are quiet, steady, responsible. They do not demand your time, they respect it. They do not manipulate your kindness, they match it. They do not drain your strength, they sharpen it. These are the people you invest in. These are the people who rise with you, not beneath you. These are the people who see your boundaries as wisdom, not rejection. And the more you align with these kinds of individuals, the more your life begins to elevate, not through force, but through synergy. Your conversations get deeper. Your environment gets calmer. Your goals feel more attainable because you're no longer carrying passengers who never intended to walk. This is the stage where your inner world becomes untouchable. Your standards become non-negotiable. Your intuition becomes sharper than any excuse someone could use to pull you back into your old patterns. You are no longer trying to fix people. You are building a life. You are no longer trying to rescue the ungrateful. You are choosing those who grow with you. You are no longer trying to earn worthiness through sacrifice. You finally understand that your worth was never tied to how much you could carry. You're becoming someone who helps only when it strengthens your path, not when it sabotages it. And now we arrive at the final truth, the one Machiavelli understood better than anyone, and the one most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You are responsible for protecting your power, not distributing it. The world will always try to pull from you. Some will take your time, some will take your energy, some will take your confidence, your patience, your peace. But only you decide who gets access. That is the essence of self-mastery. Look at how far you've come. You began this journey wondering why the people you helped the most were the ones who wounded you the deepest. Now you understand. Help is not neutral. It shifts power. It creates expectations. It rewrites relationships. And when given to the wrong people, it destroys the giver long before it elevates the receiver. But when given to the right people, those with integrity, reciprocity, ambition, and stability, your help becomes an investment, not a loss. It returns to you in loyalty, respect, support, and strength. That's why Machiavelli warned against blind generosity. Not because kindness is weakness, but because kindness without discernment is self-sabotage. You finally see it. You were never meant to help everyone. You were meant to help wisely. And wisdom feels different than guilt. Wisdom is calm. Wisdom is selective. Wisdom is unapologetic. You no longer fear saying no. You no longer fear disappointing the wrong people. You no longer fear being misunderstood by those who only valued you when you were useful. This is your evolution from emotional servitude to strategic compassion, from involuntary sacrifice to intentional generosity, from being drained by the wrong people to being strengthened by the right ones. If this journey opened your eyes, if it helped you reclaim even one piece of yourself, subscribe, comment, and share this message with someone who's still carrying people who were never meant to be their responsibility. You're no longer the person who saves everyone. You're the person who chooses who is worth saving, and that choice is the beginning of power. There comes a moment in your awakening when you understand something life-changing. You were never drained because you were weak. You were drained because you were surrounded by people who feared the day you discovered your worth. The moment you stop overgiving, their control evaporates. The moment you stop excusing their behavior, their influence collapses. And the moment you stop saving those who refuse to rise, you finally rise yourself. That is the silent turning point in every powerful person's life. The moment you stop bleeding for the unworthy and begin building for the unstoppable. You were never drained because you were weak. You were drained because you were surrounded by people who feared the day you discovered your worth. The moment you stop overgiving, their control evaporates. The moment you stop excusing their behavior, their influence collapses. And the moment you stop saving those who refuse to rise, you finally rise yourself. That is the silent turning point in every powerful person's life. The moment you stop bleeding for the unworthy and begin building for the unstoppable. You were never drained because you were weak. You were drained because you were surrounded by people who feared the day you discovered your worth. The moment you stop overgiving, their control evaporates. The moment you stop excusing their behavior, their influence collapses. And the moment you stop saving those who refuse to rise, you finally rise yourself. That is the silent turning point in every powerful person's life. The moment you stop bleeding for the unworthy and begin building for the unstoppable. You were never drained because you were weak. You were drained because you were surrounded by people who feared the day you discovered your worth. The moment you stop overgiving, their control evaporates. The moment you stop excusing their behavior, their influence collapses. And the moment you stop saving those who refuse to rise, you finally rise yourself. That is the silent turning point in every powerful person's life. The moment you stop bleeding for the unworthy and begin building for the unstoppable. You were never drained because you were weak. You were drained because you were surrounded by people who feared the day you discovered your worth. The moment you stop overgiving, their control evaporates. The moment you stop excusing their behavior, their influence collapses. And the moment you stop saving those who refuse to rise, you finally rise yourself. That is the silent turning point in every powerful person's life. The moment you stop bleeding for the unworthy and begin building for the unstoppable. You were never drained because you were weak. You were drained because you were surrounded by people who feared the day you discovered your worth. The moment you stop overgiving, their control evaporates. The moment you stop excusing their behavior, their influence collapses. And the moment you stop saving those who refuse to rise, you finally rise yourself. That is the silent turning point in every powerful person's life. The moment you stop bleeding for the unworthy and begin building for the unstoppable. You were never drained because you were weak. You were drained because you were surrounded by people who feared the day you discovered your worth. The moment you stop overgiving, their control evaporates. The moment you stop excusing their behavior,